Hello, Exile. Welcome to another video. We got some new balances in our favor. Coming today in Path of Exile, let's start reading and commenting the updates, because looks like many players find this game way too hard. Please let me know in the comments below what you believe. Gameplay features. Like we mentioned last week, we'll be adding the capacity to fast travel between checkpoints within an area. They told us a few days ago I was clicking on checkpoints, for no reason anyway, back on reading between checkpoints within an area, as well as adding many more checkpoints to areas, generally at all entrances and exits to areas. Meaning if you find these first, you'll be able to instantly travel to them, to continue exploring. We'll also be making passive point re-spexing cheaper, especially at higher levels. Finally, I paid my, what for just a few readjustments. I was minus 100,000 gold. Indeed, they say. It had a relatively aggressive curve, getting more expensive with character level. We have flattened that curve so it doesn't exponentially grow as much. This should generally result in approximately 40 to 50% less gold cost for re-spexing between the start and middle of endgame progression. Trial of the Sekhemas, a very hard part of the game. Indeed, I hope they made it easier. Players were finding Trial of the Sekhemas particularly frustrating in close range, so we've reworked how honor damage scales when in close range, as well as fixing an important bug that was causing players to take far too much honor damage from damage over time. I died today like that. I was making a video for the Sekhemas trial and failed. Honor damage now scales down based on distance to enemies. When in close range, you'll take 35% less honor damage, tapering off as you are further away from monsters. Fixed a bug where damage over time was dealing thrice as much damage to honor as intended, and fixed a bug where honor resistance was only applying to 2/3 of that damage. This was confusing for us too. I think I got the bug on video I was planning to upload today. I say again, and I didn't, because I died on unfair damage scale. Gitter golems no longer use basic attacks and instead now just explode. I don't know if that is good for us though. Serpent Clan's burrow and ambush attack now has improved visual telegraphing and cannot be used from as far away. Volcanoes created by Rattlecage's Fisher Slam now last half the duration. Endgame and monster balance. Generally, the balance in endgame maps was more punishing than intended, so we've toned down the damage in a number of ways and disabled a certain on-death effect where the telegraphing was not as clear as it should have been. Oh yeah, damage down, higher tiers will be more accessible for everyone. Maps no longer have additional elemental resistance penalties inherently applied at Tier 6 and Tier 11 or higher maps. It is now consistent across all of the endgame. That's huge news for everyone that have beat all acts. Chaos damage now also scales less aggressively over the endgame. Finally, chaos damage was a problem for my cheap lucky find build. Critical strikes from monsters now deal 40% less. Bonus damage, good random critical hits, now pay less. Lowered the baseline monster density of breach encounters, primarily by reducing the frequency of the elite monsters appearing. I had a problem here when you open breach. It's like opening Pandora's box. Check this. I'm not sure why I got so many videos captured of things. Disabled the volatile crystals modifier. They revisit this in the future pending telegraphing improvements. Purple explosives created by the volatile plants modifier on rare monsters now deal significantly less damage. That is like 80% of my deaths so far. That's huge, at least for me. The Siphon's flask charges modifier on monsters now drains 10 times less flask charges per second. This was unintentionally draining way too many charges. Very good. Fix, I say. These changes should generally result in an endgame that is much more survivable than before, and we will continue to address problematic cases as they arise. Character and item balance. We've made charm modifiers on belts substantially more common, and now appear at much lower levels. Okay, so they made those more common. Charms was common, I think. The of Symbolism modifier now appears from level 23 onwards, and the of Inscription modifier now appears from level 64 onwards. Electrocute is now 25% harder to build up. But the damage penalty has been removed from the support gem, fair balance, more damage, added a new lightning damage and electrocute cluster to the passive tree in between the ranger and monk sections. Nice, nice. My lightning build needed a easy-to-reach extra lightning damage boost. It is now more difficult to chain freeze enemies by reducing the amount of freeze buildup applied after a freeze has been applied. That's very bad for freeze build like mine against unique bosses, where you will freeze them more than once. The Hunter's Talisman. Notable now grants +1 charm slot. The small passive skills leading up to it now grant the stat it formerly gave. The Charm Helper text has been updated to indicate that you cannot have more than 3 charm slots unlocked, so that we can add more sources of it in the future. Skill and support, gem balance. And now we all pray our main skill is not here. Now what GGG say is, since launch, we've unfortunately had to nerf a few skills that were far too overpowered. How do we define overpowered? Basically, it's a situation in which a certain skill is so powerful that players feel no other method of playing the game is viable. Generally speaking, we are trying to do this in a way that doesn't make a build bad, but we can make mistakes. And of course, GGG, you guys do your best. I'm very sure of it. Ideally, any truly meta-shifting changes will only happen at the same time as a content patch with a new league to play in. Wait, is that a new league announcement? It could be, I say, my hype for this game is already at its max, so a new league already. Back on patch notes. That doesn't mean we haven't been looking at underpowered skills and support gems. We've got a number of changes planned which should improve some of these skills. The full list of changes will be in the patch notes, but here is a sample of what you can expect. Improvements. Improvements, everyone, so no nerf in this patch to rolling slam and all, shield skills in the mace section, improvements to various bow skills, especially the skills used to generate frenzy charges. Yeah, I tried a quick frenzy build, and frenzy is not that good, let's say, or not for me. Let's see what they will do after update improvements to bone spells and chaos damage over time spells in the occult section. Improvements to various crossbow skills, especially those at higher tiers. Improvements to some of the underachieving quarterstaff abilities. Alongside all of these skill gem improvements, we've also done a pass over the support gems. We've added 2 new supports, and removed or lessened the penalties on many others, notably the fire, lightning, and cold exposure supports. Great, let's see what they prepared for us. Added the tremor support gem, which can be used to give up to multiple more aftershocks to skills, with a damage penalty. We have to see the damage multiplier first to be sure if it's good or not. Added the bidding support gem, which can be used to give more damage to the command skills of supported minions. Very good for minion builds. The fire exposure, lightning exposure, and cold exposure. Support gems no longer penalize damage of supported skills. They now have a mana cost multiplier of 120%, perfect more damage. More damage everyone, and more mana problem for people using them. There are also some notable nerfs to a few of the remaining overachieving skills. Oh, so there are nerfs too. Now and for the last time, anyone need extra time to pray, not his main skill name pop up. Skeletal Arsonists' spirit costs now match the other 2 skeleton mages. This should result in a slight decrease in the number of arsonists at a higher level. a nerf to the damage over time component on very high levels of Tornado and Vine Arrow. These were never intended to be dealing damage themselves, but more so act as a way for other skills to propagate damage. Magnetic Salvo can now only use your stuck lightning arrows as opposed to those created by your party members. Huge update, I believe, and in our very much favor. And it's the second update already. I'm sure we have many things to come. I really hope you enjoy this video, Exile.
Exile, don't forget to rest near my bonfire. My friend defenses are on alert. The food is served at 8, and the cost is only 1 subscribe. The path we chose ahead us is long. Dark times lie ahead of us, and there will be a time when we must choose between what is easy and what is right.